Well, President Biden and former President Trump are honoring those who made the ultimate sacrifice this Memorial Day.
So Biden is heading to Arlington National Cemetery this morning, while Trump spent the weekend holiday with Gold Star families in North Carolina.
Our very own Doug Luzader has more on all this. Doug?
Good morning, everyone. Both of the major presidential candidates are honoring the sacrifices of fallen service members over this extended holiday weekend. We will start with former President Trump. He appeared yesterday at the Coca-Cola 600 NASCAR race in North Carolina. First, he flew over the track and then later greeted the crowd and met with Gold Star families there. President Biden, meantime, will host a Memorial Day breakfast at the White House this morning and then make the traditional visit to Arlington National Cemetery later this morning to lay a wreath and honor the fallen. And while this is a day to honor those who gave all, it's hard to ignore the politics here with the November election rapidly approaching, and both of these candidates recognize the role that veterans can play in any election. 4 years ago, Trump enjoyed a 20-point margin with veterans, according to our Fox News voter analysis of the 2020 election. Just yesterday, his national press secretary posted this on X. On this Memorial Day weekend, President Trump has announced his new coalition, Veterans and Military Families for Trump, with 175-plus endorsements from decorated veterans, Gold Star families, and heroes who love our country. And there is a website to go along with that as well. It was just launched, called Veterans for Trump. And believe it or not, today we are just 1 month out from the first presidential debate in Atlanta. Rachel, Lawrence, and Joey, back to you guys. And Joey, thank you for your service.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
So yesterday, President Donald Trump went out to North Carolina, get a flyover of NASCAR, but he also went and talked with the crowd as well. And this comes on the heels of days and days, whether it was the Libertarian National Convention, going to the Bronx, as you and I were there as well, Rachel. And it doesn't look, for someone that is in his 70s, it seems like he doesn't sleep.
Right. I mean, he's supposedly on lockdown, right, because of the trials. But even with that impediment on his travels, he's still traveling more than Joe Biden. And your point is so good. He's going to places that are outside of the box, the South Bronx. By the way, remember, it wasn't very long ago he did a CNN town hall. Can you imagine Joe Biden doing a Fox News town hall? Would never happen. Here's Shermichael Singleton. He's a GOP strategist. This is what he thinks about all the places Trump is going that Biden is not.
I think going to the Libertarian Convention was smart. According to Gallup, they represent 17 to 20% of the American electorate. Maybe you shave off 8% of them. That can make a difference in a very, very tight presidential race. Regardless of the reasons going to the Bronx, it's important. No one should be presumptive to assume that people of color are going to just vote one way purely because they're black or because they're Hispanic. That seems to be the case for my Democratic friends. And I think it's why a lot of people of color are looking at Joe Biden and they're realizing that my life is not better. When I go to the grocery store, things are expensive. The infrastructure in my surrounding community has not improved. And when I think about the future for my children, they're still in dilapidated schools where the educational system is deplorable. That's the Democratic message in my perspective. And so to have a Republican show up, whether he's being booed, jeered, whatever the case may be, he's showing up to places where Joe Biden is not, and I think that's going to make a difference.
Joey, that shows a lot of confidence.
Yeah, those words are so true and so honest. It's amazing to me that CNN let that finish. I'm surprised they didn't have some sort of technical difficulties there.
Commercial break.
And, I don't know Shermichael, but I appreciate him saying that. I'll tell you, I want to go back to NASCAR for just a second.
Sure.
A lot of people see that at surface level and say, oh, that's just Trump showing up to a bunch of white rednecks. That is not the NASCAR audience. That's not the NASCAR audience at all. Half their races are on the West Coast. Things like the success of Fast and the Furious, things like that. NASCAR has embraced those things among the Latino community, and NASCAR is as diverse of an audience now as it has ever been, not just in race or ethnicity, but in region. It's not just this southern sport anymore. Another thing that happens at NASCAR, a lot of people don't know, every company that's sponsoring something has executives at these big races, Coca-Cola 600 being one of 4. They have to stand there and see, I don't know, 100,000 people cheer on President Trump and say, listen, my company was thinking about going woke, but maybe that's not what America wants. So there's a lot of layers to him showing up to UFC, NASCAR, college football, places where politics don't really have a front row seat, because this is where people can be passionate about something other than politics. And I think it's really smart for him. In the last year, I think he's done college football, but I know he's done UFC and now NASCAR. Going to Charlotte specifically, where the headquarters of NASCAR is and so many corporate partners are there, he's really showing people that might give him money. Hey, look, I'm very popular, not just among a certain demographic, but among the entire NASCAR demographic, which is as diverse now as it's ever been.
Yeah. He also went to Minnesota,
Yep.
Team Blue Minnesota, as well. And then when he went to the Libertarian event, Lawrence, he offered some things. He said, I promise to put Libertarians in my cabinet.
Yep.
I promise to give them high-level positions. And then he said something that I didn't know anything about this guy.
Yeah.
But apparently, if you're a Libertarian,
you
know who Ross Ulbricht is. And he is somebody who, is now facing a lot of jail time. It's an internet freedoms issue. And that went over really well. I didn't understand it when I heard it. But I guess it's a big deal for Libertarians. So I think he made a difference. And again, he just has to get a little bit from here, a little bit from there, a little bit from there. And as he says, Lawrence, it needs to be too big to rig.
I've noticed, because you're right, that is his new message now.
Yes.
Is that he's not going to give any room for the possibility of this happening this election cycle. But if you watch the pundits and if you watch the media critics and all this, they have gone from, and people that are on the left as well, from criticizing Donald Trump to the places that he's going.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that is working with it. There is this intimidation game. I saw it in the Bronx, too, to tell the folks that decided to support the president that they're less than, they're crazy.
Clowns.
They're clowns. Yeah. And listen, you know what's clownish? Supporting someone that has chicken up 3.4%, cheese is up 6.1%, buns are up 12%, pickles are up 13%. So listen, you don't get to support the guy that has wrecked this economy, that is getting us in wars in the Middle East, because we may be in World War III because of his lack of presence there, that has not secured the border. And then when people say, you know what, maybe there's an extra way, another way, make fun of those people. So I'm going to be watching it in the days to come to see how the media, are they going to say, vote for who you want to, or are they going to say, vote the right way like they did the last time and we got Joe Biden?
On a Memorial Day Monday, it would be great to say we have a president that didn't start a new war.
Right.
That would be great.
That would be wonderful.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.